Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? The show that brings you answers to many of the questions that you may have, but with no one to ask. Do You Ever Wonder is hosted by Mike Haltman, CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, who, like you, has always been deeply curious about a wide variety of topics. Each week, Mike will be speaking with guests who are leaders in their field and who have inspirational stories to tell. So now, sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone. Mike Haltman here for Do You Ever Wonder podcast. And our guest today, I saw her bopping around to the intro music.
It was good.
Great.
It was good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Nicole Perrone, welcome.
Thank you for having me today, Mike. I'm excited to be here on your podcast.
It's my pleasure. And Nicole is a double threat. She's a senior vice president of production at CrossCountry Mortgage, but she's also the host of the $1 Billion Banker podcast. That's
You got it. And one correction, it's CrossCountry Mortgage. We are the proud to say the #1 distributed retail mortgage lender in the country. I've got my my CrossCountry hat on today.
I see that.
And yeah, really excited to be doing the podcast thing as you are. I know we've been talking and supporting each other, which is a lot of fun.
We have. And so originally what I wanted to talk about was the state of the market, mortgage rates, housing, all of that, but I'm fascinated by your podcast and what it is that where you want to take it. And I know that recently you were a keynote speaker and you spoke about a very interesting topic of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us look for luck, hope for luck, and your position is that not necessarily do we have to just hope for it, that we can actually work towards it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a formula for luck. There's a science to it. And it was an interesting topic for the keynote. And, it's something that I think if all of us really reflect on our lives, we can see that simply, the harder that we work, the luckier that we end up getting. And in that keynote, we spoke about psychologist Dr. Richard Wiseman, who conducted a groundbreaking 10-year study on luck. And what he found was that lucky people weren't just luckier, but that they were actually more open-minded and that they had bigger social networks. And so the more people right? Luck isn't really a solo sport. The more people the more conversations you have, the more potential doors that will open. But it's really not magic luck. It's really mindset. And so our speech walks the audience through that.
Well, that's great. I mean, I know that, so I'm the president of a networking group, and I always talk about how, it's who it's who they know, it's not keeping yourself or your company or your podcast a secret. And really it is, your footprint matters a great deal. And I think, the premise is great. Most people say I have bad luck, but you do have ways that you can turn that around, which is so very true. So how was it received?
It was received very well. I actually just posted a clip on all of our social platforms of some of the testimonials that some of the women at the conference had provided to our camera team after the event. And inspirational, I think, was the main takeaway. People
great.
really realized that there was a way that they can control their luck in their life. And so some of those people, ironically, the night before at the pre-reception were saying, I don't believe in luck. There is no such thing.
So what was the crowd? What was it comprised of?
Yeah, I think we had close to 200 there. This is the 4th annual women's conference. The Jersey Shore Chamber of Commerce hosts this event every year. And it's really an event that's there to empower women in business. And we had a variety of amazing sponsors, as well as some great panelists that spoke about a variety of products and programs and services and different things that you can do to really grow your business.
Great.
So it was great. It was It was a full day. The day before we had a little pre-reception, and there was a lot of great takeaways and a lot of great networking too.
That, you know what? It's all about the networking.
That's it.
That's
It's true.
that is for sure. So you do a lot of networking, obviously, in your business.
I do. Yeah. Look, 15 years in the mortgage industry. I right out of college, I got into sales. It was the path I chose to determine my own value and my own worth. And I felt it really compelling to see that at the end of any given year, whatever you're earning is really a direct result of the effort that you're putting in. And I like to still say that despite the crazy market cycles that we experience in this business. But yeah, networking was you always say the way that you learn this business as a leader, managing and mentoring a lot of top loan officers. I recognize that whatever you learn in this industry from the beginning is really what sticks with you. And so my early mentors in this business said, you got to get out there and you got to network. And so that was a big part of what I did in the beginning of my career, and that I still do today. But I was in BNI groups for 8 years. If those are people that haven't heard of Business Networking International, it's a great way to grow your business through
Exactly.
through formalized kind of networking structure. But yeah, it's a part of what I do, and I notice that the longer you do it, you kind of get a little bit better at what to say no to, what to say yes to. But it's
True.
it's all about who you know in this business,
But
in any business.
you become better at speaking as well. I'm the president of a BNI group, and
Okay.
I've had people who attribute their success in business to the fact that they learn, not that it's a huge crowd, not that it's incredibly pressurized, but they learn how to talk in front of people. And I think people have trouble talking in front of people. I think that's the biggest fear most people have, is public speaking. So, it
Yeah.
serves many a purpose. But that leads me to my question. So I started my podcast probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, and
Mhm.
I did it for a variety of reasons. And one of them is to further my reach in business. One is further the platform that people who I'm trying to do business with may have to
Mhm.
talk about what they do. And another one, by the name of my podcast, is just to have people who I'm interested in what it is that they do. And
Right.
you started your podcast. It's not incredibly old, but you're very successful at it. What made you jump into the world of podcasting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my background when I graduated college, I actually majored in my bachelor's was in communication, radio, television. And so it's kind of come full circle 15 years later where we're integrating media into what I'm doing every day. But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love different kinds of businesses. I love being challenged. I love the digital marketplace and what we all can get out of it. I think it's a big win-win. Me being on a podcast like this, you being on other people's podcasts, it really makes a difference in how we can collaborate and help each other in 2024. And so I spent 12 and a half years of my career in a corporate environment at one of the largest lenders in the country, largest banks in the country. And the social platform and the abilities that I had were limited. And so when I made a change over to CrossCountry Mortgage a year ago, I decided to really jump all the way in. I use the expression like I was on mute for a long time. So I was kind of had this pent up desire to get out there and do something. And podcasting is really what really called me. And our mission at the Billion Dollar Banker podcast is really to help inspire people through listening to stories about other people, from developers to big celebrities that have been on national television to realtors that run major brokerages and business owners and attorneys. You name it. We have people that have come on that are running nonprofits and making big changes in their local community. So it's just you learn so much when you interview people, and you hear some of the same things when you interview great business people. And I just hope that our audience can really get a lot of value out of what they're listening to. But like you said it before, Mike, like if you're not going to these events and you're not in these rooms with these people networking, maybe at least you're listening to a podcast where they're telling you about themselves.
You know what? Our journeys to where we are often very interesting and very very inspirational. And I got to where I am today through adversity, through hard work. Lehman's failure really was the catalyst to opening up my title insurance company. But through life there are so many ups and downs, and it's I often quote the amygdala. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's, you have two choices. You can fight, or you can curl up in the fetal position. And it's interesting how many people face those adversities and really attack them head on. And
Yeah.
it's an
But
important thing to do.
I think that's a big reminder you get when you interview different professionals or on a podcast. I'm sure is your takeaway too is, anyone out there listening, like you're not alone, right? Success isn't final, failure is not fatal, and learning from other people and what they're doing is always helpful. Always something that I think we need to constantly commit ourselves to doing is learning and
Yep.
getting ready to stay agile, because this world is changing faster than sometimes we can keep up with.
It's incredible. I mean, you take AI and you look at different industries, and they talk about how, I mean, they say it's world changing. I see what it does for me when I ask it to create a good title for a podcast. But the companies like title insurance is a fairly old line, dinosaurish kind of industry, and
Hmm.
you wonder how AI is going to impact it. How do you think AI is going to impact the mortgage business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, I could see AI really diminishing most jobs out there in many ways. I think right now we're at a great point in time where we could use it to help us excel. I think we need to use it for the right things, though. It's interesting because my mentors in this business tell me stories about how when the laptop first came out, how the laptop was in a real estate office, and now the realtors can just like touch this thing and it can tell them who's pre-approved. And at that time in the 90s, they're like, "Oh my God, we're done. This is it. This is the end of the mortgage business. This computer came and now we're done." And so, the guys and girls that mentored me were like chiseling, 1003 out on like a rock back in the day. That's how long they've
Sure.
been doing it. But I don't know. It's a great question. I think we need to be prepared for anything. And I think that's what life teaches us is that, be prepared to get hit and just know what to do and take action quick when that happens in whatever direction the puck is going in. And as long as you're kind of ready to do that and you're staying ahead, I think we'll all be okay.
I think so too. But you're right. You have to adapt. You have to grab onto new things and try and figure out how you can use them. I mean, you talk about chiseling. When I was in business school, I typed my papers on a typewriter, and
Yeah.
really,
See?
I was at Citicorp when email first started in 1994. I mean, it's incredible the transition that this world has had in the last 25 years. It really incredible.
It is. And I always say in this business specifically, or even, when it comes to technology, it's like the second you learn how to do something, it's like the next thing comes and you got to learn that. It's like, again, you're back to like, you're never done, right? It's life is a constant evolution. And so I think we just need to keep embracing it, staying open-minded
We
and
don't
doing
have a
what we can
choice.
to learn how to use it, not be afraid of it.
100%. I mean, we really don't have a choice but to embrace it because it's coming. It's
That's
coming.
the
But,
truth.
somebody like you is never going to be out of vogue because good salespeople who can speak to people, make people comfortable, and really, give them the advice and the guidance that they need. I don't know that AI can do that. It's more, it's
Yeah.
good. It's good for back office. I think that people in back office jobs may have to worry, but I don't think frontline people necessarily have anything really to worry about.
Yeah, I think I try to keep thinking like the next generation, like we probably have nephews, children, grandchildren, and we could see what their behaviors are like. And I talk to a lot of people about how, now Google is like, it's not even really like for kids their age, it's not even a search engine. It doesn't even really exist for them. They go right onto TikTok and they search things up and they watch a video. And so it's very different. I'm sure anyone that has grandkids, nephews, children can see that the way that they interact and what they do is very different. So while I still like to communicate over the phone and I like the human visibility, these are kids that are growing up on iPads and iPhones, and they find entertainment watching other kids play video games, and
Yeah.
the way that they interact is completely different. And that's why I really believe in anyone that's going to be in this business for the next 10 to 15 years, like you better get ready for that generation, because I don't think they're going on Google and Google is going to SEO, bring them to your website, and then your website's going to capture their information and follow them around. I think they're going to stay on TikTok or whatever the next thing is, and they're going to find you there. So like, if you're not doing videos, if you're not doing podcasts, if they can't search like what's better to buy or rent a home, and your video doesn't pop up in their face and you don't get their attention, I think, we got to be making our own commercials right now. And there's a lot of good things that can come out of that. And it's tough too at the same time.
You know what? I mean, for you, you're relatively young or very young. For me, it's a little more difficult because I'm adapting to things that aren't necessarily in my wheelhouse. But you're on TikTok, I assume.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to tell you, Mike, they're not in my wheelhouse either. I wasn't on TikTok 2 years ago, but I still probably can't use TikTok like the way my nephew can. I could use it well enough to get through it. And I'm not scared to touch buttons. I know, like I always used to say, like to my mom when she was first on the computer, I'm like, don't worry, nothing's gonna blow up if you hit the wrong button. Everything's gonna be okay. So I'm just comfortable trying new things. I think you just have to get comfortable with that. And yes, we're on
Great.
TikTok. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on all the podcast channels. We're obviously Instagram, Facebook. And it's crazy. It's like you can't just be on one of these platforms. It's like you have to kind of be on all of them. And who knows which
Yeah.
one's going to really. And remember when
Well,
MySpace was out and then Facebook came and took over?
I remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so your goal is to bring your podcast to what level?
Yeah. So my number one goal is to keep growing my team here and our production here at CrossCountry Mortgage, and to keep this this line of sight on the fact that I really do believe I work for the best mortgage company in America. I think it's the best place to grow your business. And I absolutely love mortgages. I love real estate. And I love being able to get my message out now to a broader audience and to network in a new way. So I really look at podcasting as the new way to network, the new way to market. And we have big goals. We want to, continue to grow. We're seeing some great interest in sponsorship opportunities. So we're now opening up the door to people that are interested in sponsoring. We have a couple different packages available. I think it's a great use of sponsorship money for people that are out there looking to do sponsorships, because I see the amount of money people spend on an event for one night.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've sponsored many events, and it's one night and that's it. You're done. You got your sign somewhere. Maybe you hand out a couple pens and,
Right.
you know,
It's not money well spent.
right.
Typically.
Typically. But I do think, in the last day or so, I think I was on five different stories on Instagram, just with reposted clips of podcasts that,
Phenomenal.
collectively you're talking about, hundreds of thousands of possible views when you look at people's follow count. So I think there's a great opportunity there to market in this space. And so we're seeing a lot of interest there. We want to get to as many people to be in our community as possible. And we want to take this as far as we can. And we're getting some really great talent to come on, planning for next year now, and really excited to see what happens next.
You know what? Judging by your enthusiasm and your strategic planning, I have no doubt that you are going to achieve whatever it is in this realm that you want to achieve. I think it's
Thank
great.
you.
I think it's great. You need to have a certain amount of excitement in your voice. It's like they
Yeah.
used to say, when you call somebody, you need to have a smile in your voice, and
hmm
you exude passion about what it is that you do, and that's fantastic.
Thank
So
you.
I
I appreciate that. And right back at you. And I love
yeah,
that I can collaborate with people like yourself, and, when this
absolutely.
is all done, to be able to promote you on my platform and vice versa, I think
Yeah,
is a great opportunity. And there's a lot of people that you'll find really early on in their stardom of digital marketing. And I would say, like, I'm really in that infancy stage. We're talking about 7 to 7 months to a year of really going in on this.
Yep.
And there's people I've had on my podcast that I know one day they're just going to have incredible followings. They're great at what they do. And so
Another
those are
Gary
great people to have in.
Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
I know there's a guy on Long Island. He's called the Handsome Home Buyer, and
Oh,
he's been trying to get Gary onto his podcast literally for a year. He does bits where he holds up signs, day 632, trying to,
oh,
but
that's amazing.
you know what though? But it's a good shtick. He'll
The
probably
handsome home.
never
You know
get him.
what? I think people, especially like the Gary V's of the world, find that type of persistence very endearing.
So I had a guy he's kind of the goat of commercial real estate in New York, Bob Knackel. And
Mm-hmm.
I got him to be on my podcast, and he appreciated my persistence because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know me from Boo. I'm a title company, and you know what? The people do appreciate persistence. And if
They
they don't
do.
appreciate it, they'll tell you to get the hell out of their face, which is fine too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. You know what? I think in sales, you when we talked about the science of luck, right? The whole concept was the formula was really, preparation plus opportunity plus action, right? And so you could have the greatest podcast ever, and you could have all this opportunity to access these amazing people that could come on your platform. But if you don't take that action, right?
Yep,
Preparation and opportunity alone aren't going to create luck for you. But
no
if you
question.
take action and you rinse and repeat that formula consistently
Yep,
of preparation plus opportunity plus action, and even take it further, bold action, it might not just be this guy's on number 63 holding up signs. I mean, we talked about J.K. Rowling, how J.K. Rowling didn't get Harry Potter published until the 13th publisher that she sat down with, right?
is
So
that
it's
right?
like, yeah, 12 publishers declined, weren't interested. So, there's so many examples of people that they don't let failure or rejection stop them from
Right.
completing that formula.
Yep.
And I think the more that we do that, the 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 better chances are that we attract what we want in our life, and we're luckier as a result of it.
100%. You know what? Whenever I see somebody that I would like to have on the podcast, whether it's on TV or I hear them on radio, I always reach out to them. And
Love it.
the odds are that I don't get a response. I did it to two people today, but you never know. Maybe people can be gracious, people can be
It's true.
giving. You just have, like you said, you have to throw it out there. You got to take chances. You got to be aggressive without
Hmm.
being annoyingly aggressive, but you know you definitely have to put yourself out there.
So true. I've messaged Grant Cardone a couple times. Maybe we could splice up this clip and add him to it. But I'm just gonna message him forever. I remember he tells the story of his how he met his wife. Was he like annoyed her for a year straight, I think, before she like went on a date with him. I think he said he called her like 36 times or something crazy before she gave him a shot. And so again, I think I always say, selling to other salespeople is the easiest thing you could do, right? Because they know how difficult it is. They know how difficult it is to pick up the phone and call someone and say, "Hey, I would love to talk about doing business with you."
Absolutely.
So I tell my sales team all the time, when you call another realtor, just remember they're thinking from their lens, like, man, I have to do this with listings sometimes or with buyers sometimes. I
Yeah.
know how it feels to be on the other side of this call.
It's not easy, but
No.
it's rewarding, no question about it. So
Yeah.
let's touch a little bit on the mortgage market and the real estate market. So the Fed cut interest rates. They cut the Fed funds on September 18th. I think the 30-year mortgage was somewhere in the mid to upper fives, and the 10-year was 370, I think. And now, after their 50 basis point cut, the 10-year Treasury is at 420, and the 30-year mortgage is kissing 7%. So,
Hmm.
where do you think we're going from here? Does CrossCountry Mortgage have an opinion, or do
Yeah,
we go with?
I think that the majority of the consensus in the market was that we were going to be in the low sixes, maybe the fives by the end of 2024. I think that's still the overwhelming consensus. However, there's a lot of things that are just unpredictable right now, right? The jobs numbers, inflation, what's happening in the market in general. We're up against election season right now. There's a lot of things that could change the tide. I think debt now is at an all new high, which may have impacted us this week. We're at the highest level we've been on rates since July of 2024. So, it was interesting because a lot of loan officers were reaching out to customers like, hey, let's refi, rates came down. And, some people were like, why are they reaching out? It's like rates are going to keep going down. But the reality is like no one has a crystal ball. So if rates get low enough where there's a benefit for you and you need to take advantage of that, it would help your family, it would help your finances, then jump on it,
And then
is
if
my
they keep
opinion.
going down, you refinance again.
Right. Exactly right. I think so. Cause look, no one really knows. I mean, it'd be nice to say like, hey, just wait till March, it'll be lower, but we don't know. We don't know where rates will be then. So I think there's a lot of creative ways that we can help subsidize challenges with interest rates. We do something called a temp buy down. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but you could basically, the buyer can pay or the seller can pay to buy down the rate for a period of time on your 30-year fixed mortgage. So
Just
you
for
could have a
period
30-year
of
fixed.
time.
What's that?
It's a temporary reduction.
Temporary. So let's say you have a 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.5, right? And let's say, just I'm making up random numbers, but let's say it's for $15,000, you could buy down the rate by 2% year one and 1% year two. You can get into a mortgage loan at a rate of 4.5% year one and 5.5% year two, and then go to your 6.5% fixed mortgage after that. But you can actually get into a home at a lower rate. There's all different ways to kind of strategize on that. And then the other major incentive to buy right now, especially in New Jersey, for our New Jersey people, is the NJHMFA. I have a client today that because they're a first-time home buyer and they're a first-generation homeowner, they're going to get $22,000 to buy their first home. They're going to come out of pocket with basically nothing to buy a home. And as long as they don't refinance that loan or pay off that loan within a 5-year period, that money doesn't need to be repaid. It's theirs. They use it to buy their home and they're good to go. So they have to stay with that rate for a little while. But 6.5, I mean, we're back to kind of like, that's where the normal market is, right? 4s to 6s, I would say. You've been doing this a long time.
Well, no, so back when I was a bond trader and normalized interest rates were right around where we are now. What went on for the last 10 years is just an anomaly that will never happen again. So it's going to be interesting to see because that so many people are locked into 3-2 handle mortgages that how are they going to flip their house and go into a house at the same price or maybe even more at a mortgage that's 400 basis points higher? It's a difficult situation. So
yeah, I'm a big interest only fan too. I think the first 2 to 3 years of your mortgage, you're really not paying much into the principal anyway.
Right.
If you happen to do really well and you make some extra money, you have some extra money, throw it towards the principal. But really, I think if you're looking at homes on average, somewhere between 5 to 7% appreciation per year, let's say, in 2 years' time, you've gained somewhere between 10 to 14% in equity, right? And so really that's the long game, I think, not many people. I think actually a third of the country has no mortgages on their home. So that's pretty impressive. But one of the cool things I heard recently was that 7 out of the last 8 election seasons that we've had, home values have increased in the year preceding the election. So the chances that home values are going to be higher come January, February, March than they are today is relatively likely when you look at history.
That's good. What's the historically what happens if a Democrat wins and or a Republican wins?
I didn't see that, but there was only in 2008 that values didn't go up. That was the only time.
It's interesting. I mean, human psychology is often our worst enemy.
No doubt.
One of my guests is a financial behavioralist, and most often from my time on Wall Street, people tend to panic and sell the low, and they tend to have FOMO and buy the high, and that's
Mhm.
completely opposite to what you should be doing. So,
Yeah,
psychology is an interesting thing in real estate, certainly.
no doubt. It
So,
really is in
so
everything.
definitely in everything. So you are happy at CrossCountry Mortgage. You're not going to be going anywhere.
I absolutely love it here. I really do. Look, I spent 13 years of my career in one place. Before that, I was with a small brokerage firm. I feel like the correspondent side of this business is like the perfect blend between the bank side of the business and the broker side. So I love it. We have the ability to broker loans. We have the ability to keep them right in house. About most of what we do is usually right here in house. We have
Which is great.
just a massive product portfolio. We do everything you could think of: home equities, reverses, renovations, construction to perm, every agency,
There's nothing
government
you
deal.
can't offer to your clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. Like, I know a lot of times, like, you show up, you talk to realtors, you talk to other people about products, but it really is important because, especially coming from my perspective, there are so many things that we do here that I would have never been able to do on the
100%.
bank side. So some clients might go right to a bank, try to get pre-approved, and they're like, sorry, you can't do this, whereas I might tell them we could do it all day long. So it's really important people get a couple opinions.
Oh, no question. Same thing in
Yeah.
title insurance. You need to get a
Yeah.
couple of opinions in title insurance.
Absolutely.
A
I
little more,
completely agree with that.
a little more mundane, but definitely the case. But Nicole, I look forward to staying in touch with you, to watching your career and podcast grow exponentially, because I know
Same
that
to you.
you've got your eye on the prize, you got the eye of the tiger, and you're going to go places.
I
So,
appreciate that. Thank you. And I
uh,
look forward to being on this podcast journey together. I think at some point we'll create a podcast club. Maybe we can come up with a cool name for it. But I think
and that's a great
collaborating
idea.
with each other and sharing ideas is the greatest way to avoid trial and error. So as much as we can help each other, let's do it. And I appreciate
Agreed.
you having me on today.
It's my pleasure. And again, just keep knocking them dead.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that, Mike. And we'll see you soon. Thank you for your
Abs-
time today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And we hope that you enjoyed the show. Next week, we will have another terrific guest telling their story. And if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear more about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our curiosity, like yours, knows no bounds. Please subscribe and like and share this episode on your social media. See you next week.